Welcome to the Authority File, the academic library podcast from Choice, brought to you by Taylor and Francis. I'm Bill Mickey, the host of the podcast and the editorial director at Choice. This week, I'm joined once again by Stephanie Davis Call, scholarly communications librarian and professor at Illinois Wesleyan University, and Dylan Burns, digital scholarship librarian at Utah State University. And we continue our conversation about institutional repositories by getting a description from each of our participants of the current structure of their repositories and how they're opening up new collaborative opportunities. Okay, so Dylan, you spoke a little bit earlier about how the institutional repository at USU has grown from a place where faculty could host their pre and post print publications. I would imagine in order to provide green OA versions of their work to a wider audience than they might otherwise find through traditional publication. But I believe that institutional repositories have gathered support from a few key user groups, namely the Extension Office and the Physics Department, for example. I mean, could you talk a bit about how you collaborate with each of these groups and what sorts of items does USU's IR house for them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Utah State University is the land grant institution here in Utah. We serve, and through that we're given the mission to serve the people of Utah. This huge sort of mandate to serve the people of Utah. So we have regional campuses all over the state, and I'm from the East and I just moved to Utah. So all over the state means a whole different thing when you're out West, when right. It's enormous. But, so we serve a lot of different populations because that's our mission, is to serve all of the people of Utah. And one of these organizations and disciplines within our school that specifically serves everyone is our Extension Office. Mm-hmm. And the Extension Office, for those of you who, don't know your land grant institutions or your ag schools that well, the Extension Office is kind of this community outreach portion of the school. It focuses primarily on agricultural publications and that sort of stuff. So our Extension Office was really excited when we created the IR and had the IR up and going, because this was a way that they could fulfill their mission of providing high quality information about agriculture in Utah to the widest audience possible. So it's funny, if you look at our downloads and you look at like our most downloaded items, and you'll find things that are really, really like inside baseball research about, rocket trajectories or really, really fancy things that are really, really hard to understand. And then you'll see glossy brochures on how to grow celery. And, and those are downloaded. Those are really, really popular all over the state, all over the country, because, and that fulfills, Utah State's larger and grander mission, to provide this kind of high quality material to the people of Utah. Mm-hmm. So the Extension Office has been really excited. The Physics Department is kind of on the opposite end, where they're doing this stuff that's really heady and really way beyond me. But they have been probably our most excited department, and that's, I think, for people in scholarly communication, that's not at all surprising, because physics researchers, we're behind things like archive, really early preprint servers, of sharing this kind of data and research at their earliest stages. So our physics department has been really keen on digital commons. They also have been interested in kind of using digital commons as their personal websites for their labs or for their own work. So we have a lot of the labs in in physics have their own sort of little domains where they can sort of, assign a student or two, undergraduate research assistant or whoever to, put up their preprints, their postprints, their posters, their presentations, their videos, all their things, and they sort of run their own little fiefdoms. And it's really kind of a nice partnership that we've been able to provide and cultivate with these groups.
Excellent. Stephanie, let's jump over to you real quick. I mean, I believe you talked about, or maybe in a previous discussion, your school's longstanding history of student journals and how those journals were some of the initial items in the repository sought to preserve. Mm-hmm. That seems to me like a very student-focused goal right from the start. How has the mission of Illinois Wesleyan's IR evolved and grown into and beyond that initial vision?
Well, we've been pretty steady with keeping student work as the primary focus of the repository. We have expanded that to include things like faculty governance documents, which doesn't sound exciting at all. But it's a really useful way of learning about the institution, understanding what discussions have been the most contentious or the most important in the institution's history. And more importantly, it's really helped to communicate to the faculty and administration what an IR is capable of doing. So I've used it myself for some historical research in terms of past practice on promotion and tenure or undergraduate research, and it's been really helpful to understand what people found the most important in past discussions.
Right.
So.
And has that worked? Have you seen better engagement among faculty for that specific use? Or?
Actually, yes. Okay. It's interesting. So we have this great event on campus, our honors convocation, where students are honored for honor societies and different departmental awards. And also there's a speech by our Kemp Teaching Award winner. And that speech is it's given to the faculty member who has been nominated by their colleagues in honor of their career in teaching specifically. Mm-hmm. And so the winner gives this really wonderful speech about their background and their teaching and how it all comes together. So I think it's a really wonderful way of highlighting our faculty that has nothing to do with research or scholarship. I think it communicates a lot about who we are, what we value, and in a way that may not be readily apparent if you're not here on campus. So the reason we have the reason we have those in our repository is because a faculty member came to us and said, you have all this great history about our governance, but can we also include these speeches by our award winners? Because that is a really wonderful way to tell our story.
Right.
So it convinced at least one person, which is great, and that's one of my favorite collections.
Good. After listening to the needs of the librarian community, Taylor and Francis is happy to announce the recent launch of a single destination platform for their digital products, Taylor and Francis eBooks. Featuring over 90,000 titles of award-winning academic content written by a global network of editors and authors, Taylor and Francis is eager to spread the word, offering key subjects such as science, technology, engineering, medicine, humanities, and social science. Taylor and Francis eBooks puts a world of knowledge at your fingertips. Experience increased functionality, an intuitive dashboard, and gain quick access to the key information you need to make managing your collections as easy as possible. You can also explore their open access ebooks in business, science, social science, psychology, and much more. To request a free trial of any of their collections and to try out the new platform for yourself, visit www.taylorfrancis.com. That's taylorfrancis, all one word, .com. In our last discussion, you mentioned that the IR reflects the mentorship that goes on at a liberal arts college. Can you provide a couple of examples of that, on how you do that, and why it's important or useful to have evidence of that mentorship discoverable online?
So for our John Wesley Powell Undergraduate Research Conference, we list the faculty advisors as a co-author for the students' posters and presentations, and it's important for us to do so, to include the faculty name, the faculty mentor, as much as we can, and we do that in other collections as well. But it's important for us to acknowledge and honor the time and effort that goes into guiding and mentoring students who do individual work, and some of the work is course related, but a lot of it is a undergraduate student delving into a topic that's independent from any coursework, any curriculum. They're doing it because they love it and they want to learn more about it. And the faculty member is there to advise. And oftentimes it's not connected with a faculty member's research and scholarship. It's really the student's independent, self-driven project. So it's important for us to include that in the repository. I think faculty appreciate it, and it's an important signal to them that we see what they're doing and we acknowledge it.
Excellent. Real quick, I wanted to get at staffing, and I'm wondering, Dylan, let's jump over to you. And if you could sort of describe how the IR is staffed and who's responsible for maintaining it, I guess, and is that meeting your needs, or what some opportunities or challenges there might be?
Yeah. So currently we have me, a faculty librarian, who oversees kind of the big picture stuff. I mean, we're a medium-sized research institution, so we don't have a huge library. So I am responsible for a lot of other things besides the IR. And then we have an IR coordinator, which is a staff position, who oversees sort of the day-to-day stuff. And then we have between 5 and 6 student workers who work usually 15 to 20 hours a week. And they kind of actually, they end up actually doing the majority of the work, the QC, the upload, that sort of stuff. And, right now, I think that, it is adequate to kind of keep everything humming along. I think we're very lucky to have as many students as we do, focus solely on the IR. But yeah, so it takes a lot of people to keep it running.
Right. Do you have meetings to talk about IR initiatives, or not really, or do you sort of?
Yeah. So we have an IR advisory committee, which is made up of people within the library, but also faculty who are engaged and excited about the IR. Okay. And we use that as an opportunity to kind of show off what we've done, but also to kind of bounce ideas off. What do you think of this? More often than not, I'm told, Dylan, that's a little out there. So, but yeah, no, we've got a really supportive faculty base. So it's nice to get the faculty involved and kind of thinking about the future of the IR.
Good. And then Stephanie, how about you?
We have one staff member, and her students, we typically have 2 to 3 students that she supervises working on the IR, and she's been working on it the entire time we've had it, so back to 2008.
Okay.
She was formerly our reserves assistant, and she still does reserves, but this has been added to her job description, as has our assistive services. So she does scanning for our students who have visual disabilities as well. So her work has really changed over the past 10 years. And without her, we would have no repository. So Amy is the linchpin that really holds it all together.
Okay.
Our archivist and I also do some work with specific collections. So I work with students who have journals in our economics department, in our history department, political science, and Meg Miner, our archivist, works with the faculty governance documents and then also our honors project. So between the three of us, and also another staff member in our technical services unit, who works with press releases. So between the group of us, we all focus on different parts to make it all come together at the end. So no, it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah.
I think we could do with more staff, but especially with the outreach. But I rely on my librarian colleagues to help with that as well.
Okay. So it's sounding like staffing is pretty dialed in so far for each of you. But I'm wondering, Stephanie, if there are any challenges, I guess, that you might be or ongoing issues with either growing your IR or focusing it or the technology or anything like that, that you might be sort of wrestling with at this point or going forward.
I think the challenges right now are with outreach. We have fewer librarians than we did when I started here at Wesleyan in 2004. And so as people have departed or retired, their work is spread out among those of us who remain. So the time to go out and talk to faculty, the time to go out and talk with students it's becoming more challenging to do that. So outreach is I think, the most important part of repository work. And I know others would disagree in terms of, the technical aspects, but we're lucky that I don't have to worry about programming for a repository because we have a hosted platform.
Right.
So the outreach is the most important piece and the most challenging piece.
Okay. Dylan, how about you?
I agree with Stephanie that outreach is really important. And I always say that my job is kind of to be a used car salesman for the repository, that I go out to departments or meet with students and I say, what can I do to put you into a repository today? So that's one of my chief jobs. But I think one of the challenges that we are dealing with now and we're constantly thinking about is digital preservation.
Right.
Since our theses and dissertations have gone completely digital, that the files in Digital Commons are the only they're the copies of the record, and they're the only copies we have. So we, have a digital preservation task force, but going along with sort of staffing questions, we're going to be looking at, hiring someone full time to really dig into digital preservation and thinking about sustainability and thinking about keeping our metadata clean and how to ensure fixity and those kinds of things. And because we're USU is with Digital Commons has been a little proactive in working on this. We are, Digital Commons is heavily invested in Amazon S3 and Amazon Glacier and those kind of backup systems. But we're really one of the challenges that I think that we're going to really need to solve in the next 5 years or so is how to promise our stakeholders that the digital files they give us are going to be secure and safe, forever, I guess, right, or for as long as there is an internet.
You just heard from Stephanie Davis Call of Illinois Wesleyan University and Dylan Burns at Utah State University. This concludes the third of 4 episodes on tracing the evolution of institutional repositories. This episode was brought to you by Taylor and Francis. Be sure to join us for our final episode in this series, where I speak with Stephanie and Dylan about how they're sustaining their IRs, how they plan to continue growing them, and their favorite objects contained in them so far.
It's called Addressing the Elephant in the Room, Understanding the Daily Life of Undocumented Latino High School Youth. And so this, I just love this example because it's an honors project. It's a scholarly examination of the 1.5 generation, undocumented students who were born abroad and brought to the U.S. by their parents at an early age. So this is from 2013. This is from 5 years ago. And here we are at this time in our history where this is, a hot topic would be a gross misunderstatement.
Find all of the episodes of The Authority File on your favorite podcast app or on our website, choice360.org. Just click on the librarianship dropdown. To download the white paper on the evolution of institutional repositories that Judy Luther and Choice published, click on the same librarianship dropdown and select white papers. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining us.